But it really was a game of two halves, to kind of bring about a cliche, wasn't it? With some frustration, I think, from those watching on, because the first half, Miles, was actually straight away like quite an impressive few interplays from the team. The attacking lineup played really well, and Jude Bellingham in particular is clearly England's talisman now, isn't he? He's the playmaker of the team, and he was the kind of instigator of everything good that England did, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly in the first sort of 30 minutes. I was a little bit worried that he tired through the game and he was almost trying to do too much on his own. And he was treating that game like it was the final and putting everything into it from the first whistle, which is amazing, but shows maybe the younger side of his game, and where that maturity will kick in and he kind of manages his game time throughout a bit. Like, he took a lot of knocks because he was hanging onto the ball for a really long time. But the way he was gliding through that midfield, particularly in the first half, the way he was kind of linking up with Foden when he drifted more centrally, the way he was finding Saka out wide, Trent even, it was fantastic. And to arrive into the box like that for the header shows quite how far his game has come at Real Madrid this season, playing that more advanced position. We're not really used to seeing that of Bellingham for England in particular. So it was really good for him to get on the score sheet early on in the tournament as well, I think.
Yeah, I think Bellingham, Dave, the driving force, and as Miles said, maybe a bit of naivety and youthful exuberance really carried him to every part of England's midfield play, defensive and attacking. And you could see him kind of really getting in the face of a few of the players, which I think really gets the fans on side as well, doesn't it? But Bellingham, mate, I mean, is he going to be the driving force for England for the rest of the tournament now based on this? He's the clear number 10, but he was given kind of like a free role in this game, wasn't he? And it paid off in the end.
It seems that way, doesn't it? I think with the responsibility that he has in that focal area, he seems to be the focal point and everything really does go through him. And I think I agree with Miles. I think, he's still got that little bit of naivety about him. He's obviously still very young, but I think we've lacked that kind of character in recent years.
Yeah.
I'll probably say, maybe going all the way back to when we had Rooney at such a young age, who had that bit of arrogance about them, and they knew they were that good that they could almost pretty much do anything with the ball. And I definitely think he's that kind of player, and I think he's on that level. So, yeah, I think there are other things in this game that, far more concerning than what obviously Bellingham was probably the biggest positive of the game, and has shown that he can take this team up a level if he needs to, and win games on his own. But I think we just want a little bit more from England.
Well, on that then, Dave, I'll stay with you. What frustrated you about England's performance then? Because, as I said at the start, it has divided opinion slightly. Well, I say completely. There's been as much negative as there has been positive. But what did you see that kind of made you feel like something wasn't quite working yet?
I think particularly creatively. I think in that creativity that I think we lacked at times. If you look at after probably preceding the goal, it was a brilliant goal, brilliant little ball from Saka, and you don't see many balls attacked like that. In fact, Bellingham put everything into that header. But I think, particularly in the wide areas, I think there was a lack of support, mainly from the fullbacks. We saw Kyle Walker have a couple, marauding runs down the wing, and we actually nearly scored from one just after the goal. But there was a lack of that on the left and the right hand side, really, mainly in the second half. And I think probably the midfield just looked a bit too disjointed for me, especially in the second half. I think that the first half, you look at that first half an hour, really controlled things without really being threatened as such. And Trent actually played quite well in that first half. But it just seemed like there was too many gaps that were appearing in that midfield. And I think the worry for me is that we just lacked any composure to keep holding the ball.
I think there was loads that didn't click, to be honest, because
Really?
I think the setup changed so much in the second half that it completely nullified what England were trying to do. And I think they picked the wrong game plan for the wrong opponent at times. Look, you're right. We will end on a more positive note because a win is a win. And if we saw a side like Portugal put in that kind of performance and get the 1-0 win, you'd say, well, that's how you win tournaments. And that is definitely true of this England performance. But it didn't stop me feeling incredibly frustrated watching that second half at the really obvious areas we needed to improve. So Trent was definitely one of them, because in the first half, that first 30 minutes in particular, when England were attacking Serbia, they were excellent at getting Trent involved across different areas. So he would drift out wide as Saka cut inside and give another option out on that right-hand flank, which was excellent to see. He was playing really nice balls in behind to the wingers who were trying to break forward. He was linking with Bellingham really, really well. But then we saw the opposite of when he did have to come back towards his own goal, he just kept giving the ball away. I think he gave the ball away 11 times, which is a lot for a centre midfielder. And I know that you're asking him to be ambitious, you're asking him to be creative, and we saw moments of real quality within that. But if you are then changing to this tactic where you're lumping the ball long at Harry Kane, who's just meeting two strong Serbian centre-backs every single time, then it's the wrong play. What Trent is really good at is playing the ball across the pitch or along the floor through the middle. And instead, what they were doing was bringing players like him and Foden really deep to defend, and then lumping it up the pitch and hoping for the best. So at that point, Southgate has to assess what he's trying to achieve in the game. And if it is, try and get Harry Kane to run the clock down. I'm disappointed in that.